Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we'll be continuing our mod highlight series, with today's mod being fairly well requested, Mixu's Vangheist Revenge. This is a Vampire Coast faction mod which introduces new characters, new units and a new style of play. Rather than setting out to create a name for yourself as a pirate of great infamy, with this mod you take the role of a servant, where you'll be playing as a vassal to a much larger faction. You are under their control and must do as they say. This is a rather interesting and unique way not only to play Total War Warhammer's Vampire Coast, but a Total War Warhammer faction in general. You are playing as the servant, not the master. But let's not waste any more time and jump right in. As soon as you start your fresh new campaign, you're introduced with a how to play section, which is very well welcome. It'll explain that you are a vassal and thus cannot engage in diplomacy, where all war and peace negotiations are handled by your master, Count Noctilus. It is important to note that with this mod you are permanently a vassal of the Dreadfleet. I'm assuming unless the Dreadfleet gets destroyed. It's been a long time since I've seen the Dreadfleet get defeated throughout the campaign. But you are at the will of your master here, so you can't declare war or make peace. If Count Noctilus decides to declare war on random enemies and factions, you will also be dragged into them. You have no choice on the matter. This can be extremely punishing in harder difficulties, so do be warned about that. You'll find yourself in the northern reaches of the world, between the lands of the Dark Elves and the lands of the Northmen, already at war with a number of factions. Obviously, as this is early campaign, they won't present to be much of a problem. You can even choose to ignore them and go about your own merry way. Although I would advise attacking these factions in an effort to get yourself more income. As stated before, you will not be able to initiate any forms of diplomacy. Double-clicking settlements and armies of factions you're at war with will not provide any prompt whatsoever. However, with neutral factions you will get a prompt, but you may only demand or make payments to these factions. Your technology tree for the most part will remain exactly the same as that for all the other Vampire Coast factions. The only thing which is actually changed here is that of the legendary admirals. These are new characters more suited for the ghostly appearance of Vangheist's forces. And also a Strigoi Ghoul King who seems to have taken to the high seas. We'll be looking at these characters a bit further on into this video. Not much has also changed in regards to your ship-based hordes. In fact, only one new building has been added in, which adds in Vangheist's hordes. A free tier building which gives you access to a complete roster, well, more or less complete, of a full army of ethereal units. Which is precisely why it's not a complete Vampire Coast faction turned ethereal. It would be way too overpowered. You can do plenty of damage with the small amount of units offered to you, but don't worry, you're still able to recruit the standard Vampire Coast forces. In regards to faction effects, you gain more public order when in areas with high vampiric corruption as expected. You are also immune to climate, sea, corruption, regionless and storm attrition, and your vampiric hordes gain a massive boost of +10 growth. However, there is a negative, where your income from settlements and port buildings are by -70%. You will notice this, believe me. In regards to Vangheist himself, you'll see that he'll never stay wounded for more than one turn, and he has a benefit of extra income when sacking settlements. His army-wide benefit is that of an increased speed rate for all Shade Wraith crew members. The Shade Wraiths themselves are the ethereal units, which we will see later on in this video. Stat-wise, everything is as expected from a legendary character. You will notice that he has 0 armor, but that's because he is also ethereal, so he's already reducing a bunch of damage as it is. The armor really isn't needed. In fact, he has a 75% base physical resistance, which is absolutely awesome. In regards to any specific skills added for this character, these skills focus around buffing up himself, extra damage, extra hit points, and even a decent amount of magic resistance, or focusing around buffing up his armies. Well, specifically the majority focuses around his own personal army, and it does make them rather powerful. Even with the Shade Wraith units being considered very low to mid tier, you could still get a decent use from them later in campaign, specifically with just Vangheist. Whilst we're on the topic of Vangheist and his forces, it is important to note that his armies may only control coastal settlements. You may not go deeper inland, so you're stuck with either focusing on your hordes or focusing on a small amount of coves or settlements here and there. You will also notice that there is a cap when recruiting armies. This is simply because you're a vassal. There is no intention of you becoming a superpower and being stronger than the Dread Fleet itself. Your 4 unique Admiral Lords are all fairly different. They focus around different forms of combat and usability in the battlefield. With each of them, you'll be able to form different types of armies to form around different types of playstyles. This is actually quite fun, as no army will effectively be the same if you so wish. It's still possible to focus around doom stacks if you so wish, but if you want a more thematic approach, this is the perfect time. You have a spellcaster lord, a ranged lord, a character focused around shooting and artillery, and also your Strigoi, which will allow you to recruit ghouls. If you want to focus around more thematic approaches, this is a great mod, as you're able to just play around with it and just experiment really. Each of the lords themselves have their own benefits, so you are pretty much getting 5 unique legendary characters in one mod. And finally, on screen right now are all the different types of units which are uniquely added through this mod. I want to take the time now to talk about the mod in general and give my final thoughts. All the units added in are themselves ethereal, and so are most of the characters added in too. This can be extremely powerful, especially in early game, as not a lot of other factions are equipped to deal with enemies which all have a high base physical resistance. Thankfully, your whole roster is not ethereal, or else it would be a tad overpowered. As you might see, it's mostly the basic low to mid tier units, plus mortars and cannons which are ethereal. Trust me, ethereal cannons and ethereal mortars, absolutely fantastic. The characters and units added in through this mod are fairly well balanced. Sure, you're a bit powerful, especially in early game, but as you work later and later into your campaign, you will start to notice you'll more or less lag behind and will require some units from your standard vanilla roster. The playstyle in general for this faction is rather curious, but extremely unique. Playing as a vassal to another faction is rather strange, but it provides a unique different type of playstyle. You are the servant here. Not being able to make any decisions yourself in terms of diplomacy is absolutely fantastic. This is where your life is put in the hands of the AI. The Dreadfleet AI itself could easily go off insane and start making you get into wars with factions that you are not prepared to face. My only issues with this mod is mostly around the aesthetic. It's kinda boring to look at ghostly units all the time. I understand they need to look like this as they're ghostly, but it's just something that just doesn't appeal too much to me. But that being said, there's also a lack of any generic ghostly hero. There should be one, especially if the rest of the army is. But before we end this video, it makes me think of something else. seeing this faction is more or less how I always imagined Nakai the Wanderer to be. Instead of being a force which is acting on its own initiative, I kinda wanted to see Nakai in the more of a vassal approach, where Nakai would be a vassal in a sense to all the other Lizardmen lords at exactly the same time, rather than Nakai building up any temple cities and so on and then gifting it to a faction which does nothing. I always had this idea of Nakai working in respect to the other legendary lords. Yes, I am kinda diverting from the mod, but it made me think of how Nakai could have been focused on a different aspect, focusing around working for Mazdamundi and working for Lord Croak. I have a proper idea regarding this, and I will release a video regarding it soon enough, as it would take too long to explain in this video, but maybe you guys more or less have an idea what I'm referring to. But with that being said, if you're interested in trying out this mod, you can find a direct link in the description below. And as always, if you know of any mods which you think deserve to get highlighted, maybe to promote the mod or a modder that you know, you can always leave a suggestion in the comments below. Or may I suggest joining the official Great Book of Grudges Discord, as it's much easier to get in contact with me there. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.